Hi, it's Katie Seriani Bowl with Katie story number 8.5. We're going to call it 8.5 because I'm going to finish talking about Mike and move on to Marky Mark. And if we don't get time for Marky Mark, we'll just call it 8.5 and we'll finish off Mike. So happy Thanksgiving, coming to you from Vancouver Island, southwest corner of Canada, eh? My husband and I were just away for 3 beautiful nights down in Cowichan Bay. The little video I posted yesterday was so cool. That was a bunch of sea lions just all heaped on top of each other on the dock, just yelping away. And apparently now, through the fall, they'll multiply. They'll be all over the docks, up on top of the boats. They even sink some of the wharfs. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, so it was beautiful. It was such a nice weekend. We just walked all over the place and shopped, much to Jeff's delight. Not too much. That was perfect, actually. It was small enough that there wasn't too much shopping. And we went to Victoria last night, and I posted some pictures of all those great brick alleys, and we ate at a really nice, iconic Japanese restaurant. You know, you sit around the big table, and they chop it and cook it all in front of you. And it was, yeah, way too much. So, I'm going to finish off talking about Mike, my bodyguard. When I lived, we were all in the hood. My brother's big friend, his best friend that protected me. And one of my favorite stories is when I was in grade 7. So by now Mike wasn't in school, but he was still hanging around in IMO. So I would have been like 12 and he would have been 15. And I had this crush on this boy named Kenny. And, you know, we would always joke around at school, and I was kind of, you know, chubby little funny Katie. So one day I was doing my paper route, and this nice old man, really sweet, nothing sleazy about him, he'd always offer me a Revel or a Fudgicle or a Freezy. Oh, hey, would you like a Fudgicle? And, oh, yeah. And I'd always, like, take my time, walk it up the sidewalk really slow, you know, so I could have him see me in time to get one of those Revels. So I had my Revel, and I just, like, had a bite. And who do I see coming up the top of the hill on his bike but my crush, Kenny. So I didn't want him to see me eating ice cream. Wanted him to think, you know, I was chubby from eating all those vegetables and fruit. So I slid it inside my paper sack and I just gave him my best, "Hi, Kenny." And I gave him a big smile. And you know what he said? That little fucker just looked at me and said, "Ah, fuck off, you fat bitch." And I was just like so shocked that he would talk to me that way. He'd never been rude to me like that before. I just looked down in my paper sack and I pulled out that Revel and I just fired it at him, and it splatted all over his little ski vest from, this is 1978, so he was wearing one of those ski vests that was yellow, bright blue, and bright red. And I just nailed him. So the gloves were off. He threw his bike on the ground and started chasing me. "You're fucking dead, Seriani." And he chased me home, and I locked the door and made faces at him out the window, and, you know, we were doing that. So didn't think much of it, but a day or two later, I hear this rumor that he's going to beat me up. So once again, Mike to the rescue. He comes out onto our back deck and says, "Okay, show me where you live." And I'm like, "But don't mess up his face." I said, "I still really love him. Like, he's really cute." So Mike's like, "Yeah, just trust me. I'll take care of this, Katie." So we get on the deck and I show him, you know, kind of the projects, these low-income housing where he lived with his family. And I said, "Yeah, it's that one, you know, in the middle at the end." But I forgot to tell him that Ken has a big brother named Chuck that looks almost identical. I think they're like a year apart, but they totally can be, yeah, mistaken for one another. So Mike goes down there, knocks on the door, and Chuck, the brother, opens the door, and Mike grabs him by the scruff and lifts. Yeah, he liked doing that. He was a scruff kind of guy. Says, "You touch Katie Seriani and you're fighting me." And Chuck says, "I think you want my brother Kenny." "Kenny, there's someone here for you." So Kenny comes down the hall, and Mike this time didn't grab him, just said, "Hi, you're Kenny. Yeah, you know, I'm hearing rumors that you're going to beat up Katie Seriani." And he said, no, I wouldn't do that. I really like Katie. I'm just mad at her for throwing ice cream at me." And Mike said, "Well, don't call her a fat fucking bitch then." So he just again reiterated to Kenny what he said to Chuck. And, you know, you touch her, then you got to fight me. So don't be doing that. And I saw him a day or two later going up the hill pushing his bike. And he was like, "Hi, Katie." And I said, "Hi, Kenny." And he said, "Must be nice to have an older brother." And I was like, "Well, funnily enough, it's not really my older brother that protects me, it's his friends, but, you know, it's all good." And, you know, he ended up moving away. And you know what's really funny? My friends and I, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, just happened to be talking about those guys because we all grew up in that neighborhood together. And so we looked them up and we found the brother Chuck on Facebook. So we messaged them. We were sitting at the keg and us girls took a shot of us, of each other. And hey, it's Katie and Michelle and Tracy. And do you remember us? Well, damn if like 6 months later I didn't hear from him finally. And he's doing great. And so I told him about that story about Kenny, and he said that wouldn't be the first or the last time that I got roughed up because of his cheeky mouth. Yeah, Kenny was the shit. So anyway, I'm going to see now if I can sneak into Marky Mark. Oh, Marky Mark. So I would have loved to keep this part in the book. This guy hitchhiked out from Ontario and met my older brother Danny, who was quite a bit older than him. And they were drinking at the dock, and he brought him back to our house. But it was him and Fred, who's 3 years older than me, that really connected. So here we go. Mike, my brother's Fred's best friend, was one of the angels who lived on and off at 311 Elizabeth. Fred, by age 15, would meet another wonderful, tough, and troubled friend named Mark, who was only 17 and had hitchhiked out on his own to the west coast of Canada, all the way from Mississauga, Ontario. Fred partied with them when he came to our house with Danny. Mark awoke on our front lawn to find my mum standing over him, blocking the bright early morning sunshine from his face. Mum asked him if he was all right. Yes, he replied in his comical high voice, smiling up at her. She invited Mark in for a cup of tea. He stayed for 8 months. Yeah, he had this really funny voice and, he tell jokes and, hi. Mark was very good looking, kind, and funny as fuck. We all adored him. He would have us in stitches. He even grew on my grumpy dad. I nicknamed him Hobo for traveling across the country with his meager possessions. He wore the same outfit almost every day. His thick, long auburn hair was covered by a yellow cat ball cap, followed by a tight green t-shirt that clung to his muscular physique, tight Levi's, and work boots. Girls called the house constantly for him. I was 11 in grade 6. I loved him for how cute and charismatic he was. I loved him for his endless corny slapstick jokes told in his funny high-pitched voice, and I loved him for how he protected me and my family from my older brother Danny. Danny's experimentation with acid in the early 70s, that we've talked about in previous Katie stories, brought on the mental illness schizophrenia that ruined his promising soccer career in the mid-70s. He was often violent with my mom, and us younger kids feared him. Dad would come home from gambling and beat Danny up. While Dad was gambling, Danny beat on my mom. He blamed her for his illness because she had issues with God, so Danny figured God was punishing him too. Mark was muscular, and when he dropped his voice an octave, you knew he meant business. Even though Danny was a decade older than him, he knew not to fuck with Mark. One evening, Fred was out with his friends, and Mark had stayed home. He was up in Fred's room listening to music and heard my screams. Danny stood in the living room with a large tin can of peanut butter aimed at my mum's head, like a shot put. Mum was sitting frozen in her brown leather recliner as she often did, and Mark came flying down the stairs in an instant, sailed through the air and knocked the tin can from Danny's hands and escorted him to the front door. Mark's calm, affable, and strong presence alone protected us by diverting and preventing escalating situations with Danny. Other times we weren't so lucky. Mark left the island and grew up good. He remained a close friend of our family until his fight with a quick and aggressive cancer in 2009. Rest in peace, Mark, our angel then and our angel now. So I'm going to kick off, or end off. I already kicked us off. Just saying how grateful our family was for Mark. He was so funny. And yeah, a lot of adventures took place. We'll have to definitely have another chit chat with, I would actually love to have my brother guest star, and maybe one of his friends, and we could dish on some of their stories, because they've got real good ones, like being chased out of a farmer's field picking magic mushrooms, and yeah, there's just all kinds of good stories. Yeah, we're not done with Marky Mark. Okay, so isn't that great? It's October 14th. I'm sitting here in this beautiful weather in my t-shirt in the middle of October. I love it. I hope you've all had a great day. It's a stat holiday, so it's great to be off on a Monday and have a 4-day week. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I don't know what to say because you're not all Canadian Thanksgiving. So have a great day wherever you are, and be grateful for something, someone, somehow. See you next week.